address, may we now invite His Excellency, the Governor of Rivers State, Chief Nyesom Ezenwo-Wike.
Here, judges of the Rivers State High Court and the Customary Court of Appeal, body of senior advocates of Nigeria, the magistrates, judges of other jurisdictions that are here, the chairman of the various branches of the Bar Association, service commanders, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by joining the Chief Judge of the State to welcome each and everyone here present at the opening of the 2021-2022 legal year. The opening of the legal year heralds the formal beginning of legal services by the courts after the break, and therefore serves to attract public focus on the administration of justice and the rule of law in our society for the next 12 months. It is therefore an important event, not only for the judiciary, but also for society at large. While we have always had judicial institutions, it is the commitment of our judges, magistrates, and judicial staff that have enabled our legal and justice systems to continue to function for our state and also for the citizens. It is because of our judicial officers that people can come to the courts for the peaceful resolution of their social and commercial disputes, as well as the protection of their legal and fundamental human rights as granted by our Constitution. It is still because of the presence and efforts of the judiciary that have prevented citizens from resorting to self-help when confronted with grave acts of injustice and oppression, which is also the reason our societies are largely peaceful and thriving with progress. Let me therefore thank our entire judiciary, including the judges, the magistrates, lawyers, and the court staff from the inferior to the superior courts for their collective contributions to the building and sustenance of our legal and judicial systems. I wish to also commend the Chief Judge of Rivers State for his leadership and commitment to building a better judiciary from the solid foundations he inherited by widening access, removing obvious barriers, and improving existing processes and procedures in the administration of justice. As I've emphasized several, Rivers State deserves nothing less than the best in all our collective endeavors as we look to the next 12 months of judicial service delivery. With optimism, I'm confident that you will take our judiciary to the next level of excellence and effectively advance our collective guests for a secure, fairer, and just society. Our government believes not only in the majesty of our judicial system, but also remains committed to upholding the rule of law, judicial independence, the principles of separation of powers as granted under our Constitution. From inception, we prioritize the judiciary, advanced its independence, and provided the needed resources for it to discharge its functions, and we are proud of our matchless achievements which have propelled our judicial system to the envy of others in terms of access, effective case management, application of technology, and diversity and efficiency of services. This is a fact, and at moments such as this, we cannot stop recalling new courthouses were provided for both the state and federal court system, which are ensuring that citizens have a much widened access to both wings of the national and state court systems for justice and other related services. And because we are not yet done with our judiciary, we are presently building a new magistrate court complex with 4 blocks of 24 courtrooms, exhibit storage floor, a sick bay, and a detention facility to increase the capacity of this category of courts to deliver justice speedily for the benefit of the state and citizens. Those who attempt to criticize us for spending the state's money on building and improving the fiscal structure of federal courts are only being mischievous and politically envious of the applause we have received from his holistic interventions in the structural needs of federal institutions, including the security agencies, examination bodies, international development agencies, and the paramilitary services, providing various social services for which Rivers people are the greatest beneficiaries. And so we are happy to have built the National Industrial Court to end the risk and agony our people, including lawyers and litigants, were experiencing when they had to travel all the way to Inagua to litigate their labor disputes and related matters. After all, this was a court that was rejected by the previous government when offered to the state by the federal government without any just cause, and we felt obliged as a responsive government to retrieve and restore it in Rivers State as part of our responsibilities to drive the development of the state and the progress of our people. Our direct response to these armchair, politically tainted critics is that we did not wrong. It was the right thing to do, and we'll do it over and over again if it becomes necessary. We cannot also stop talking about what we have done in the last 6 years to improve the welfare and well-being of our judicial officers, especially the provision of new cars, comfortable and well-resourced offices, as well as the provision of lifelong residences for all our judicial officers, including those serving in federal courts and other jurisdictions except our state. To date, we remain the only state that has elevated an ordinary policy commitment to the level of enforceable legal rights for the beneficiaries with the enactment of Rivers State Judicial Officers Housing Scheme Law 2021 to guarantee continuity. What this means for judicial officers is that a subsequent state government must first contend with abrogating this law before it can contemplate stopping the continuous implementation of this legacy policy that is of profound relevance to the comfort of judicial officers and their families. The new campus of the Nigerian Law School that we are building in Port Harcourt would expand the current capacity of the Nigerian Law School so that more and more Nigerians, including ours from Rivers State, can graduate from this institution and become proud lawyers and contribute to the progress of society. Here again, some lazy and uninformed characters have criticized our law school development project with the unfounded and lousy allegation that it lacks budgetary provision in our 2021 budget, even when they considered to the propriety of the project and the optimal benefits it will attract to the state and the business community. In this set of castigators, we urge you to first try and lay your hands and educate yourselves on the state budget as approved by the State House of Assembly, which is available online, before badmouthing the state government irresponsibly. Furthermore, the Port Harcourt campus of the Nigerian Law School is one we consciously demanded, offered to build, secured its approval from the Council of Legal Education, and ultimately from Mr. President through the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, and named after one of the Nigeria's foremost legal icons, late Dr. Nabo Graham Douglas, the Advocate of Nigeria, and the second campus within the South-South zone of the country. But let me inform the audience of the politics of the law school. Because of the envy, and of course, anything about Port Harcourt, politics will have to come into it. Just recently, the chairman of the Judiciary Senior Committee has tried to bring in politics in the establishment of the law school campus. Now bringing a bill that the federal government should set up 2 campuses in each zone. And then in the South-South, Yenegua and Delta State. in essence, trying to do everything they can to see that the Port Harcourt campus of law school does not exist. But I can assure you, we have the capacity to fight back. It is unfortunate that for whatever reasons, the Deputy President of the Senate and his members trying to undermine the viability of the campus by sponsoring a bill for the unnecessary proliferation of law school campuses so that he could grab one and site in his village in Delta State. It's most unfortunate. I hear the public hearing will be on Monday. I will also be there. Now, the issue is, where would the federal government have the money to fund the establishment and running of multiple politically motivated law school campuses across the country? I hope the management of Nigerian Law School, the Council of Legal Education, and the federal government will see the fully in the proposed escalation of law school campuses across states and nip the idea from the board before it causes more damage to a foremost institution that's already severely challenged for lack of adequate funding. We're also proud for being the only state in the Federation that has established a specialized judicial institution to provide regular capacity building for our judicial officers to improve the delivery of justice from our courts with the enactment of the Rivers State Judicial Institute Law 2021. Globally, judicial institutes are now considered a must for any country or state that aspires to legal excellence, and this is precisely what the Rivers State Judicial Institute is intended to realize for our state, which underscores the importance we attach to the quality of justice our courts should skillfully and professionally dispense. As an arm of government, our administration has largely fulfilled our commitments and done what we expected of us for the judiciary to effectively perform its role as the watchdog of our Constitution, the bastion of the rule of law, and the protector of the fundamental rights of the citizens. We all expect in return, therefore, is for our judiciary to actualize its vision of becoming the most dutiful, productive, and efficient judiciaries in the country by ensuring that all citizens can readily access the legal system for effective justice and other related services whenever they need it. But this is done to do. With out of 13,000, you dispense 3,000. That is not acceptable. 2 months of juicing is not an excuse. So, my Lord the Chief Judge, that is not commensurate with what we are putting on ground for the judiciary. At this point, I will be failing our responsibility if I do not comment on some of the challenges affecting the rule of law and effective administration of justice in our country. As an institution, the Constitution mandates the judiciary to be independent and never to be beholden to any person or authority other than our Constitution. Similarly, judicial officers are not in office to pursue anyone's agenda or be used to pursue any person's agenda or interest, but to uphold the rule of law irrespective of the circumstances and dispense justice to all persons, the weak or strong, the poor or rich, the high and mighty or the low and ordinary, the ruling party or the opposition, without fear, favor, or prejudice. One factor such as financial autonomy, improved welfare, and efficient appointment system are necessary preconditions for judicial independence. What is more obvious is that our courts and entire justice system can only be as practically independent, impartial, and good as the personal character and integrity of the judges that preside over them. In other words, $1 billion monthly remittance will make no difference to outcome of any judiciary that is populated by these officers who really undercuts the essence of their calling and are naturally inclined to betray their judicial oaths. The crux of the matter, therefore, is the constitutional provision on judicial independence are practicable only to the extent that judicial officers are seen and reputed to be free from being captives to improper or extraneous pressure, influence, control, or interference, be it political, economic, or social, when discharging their functions. And since no one can give what he or she does not have, a judicial officer who is on principle fearful and lacking in courage, personal integrity, and effectiveness can neither stand in the face of internal and external pressures, nor be fair and impartial when sitting in judgment over people. Issues pertaining to poor case management, foreign shopping, allocation of case files to preferred judges, illogical and counter judgment by cause of concurrent jurisdictions, and clear denial of justice to deserving parties continue to blight the integrity and identity of our judicial system. It is therefore important to remind ourselves that in judicial conduct, perception is as important as reality, while judicial or personal independence in the handling of cases is also not synonymous with lack of public accountability. This being so, we have an abiding interest as society to demand and insist that judicial officers must be persons of high integrity, conscious, and dutiful, persons with still courage and commitment to administer justice without fear or favor, self or group interests, persons that are fearless and willing to do justice even if the heavens would fall. May God help our judiciary to root out every judicial officer who is not courageous to dispense justice. As we all know, it is the responsibility of the government at all levels to protect the judiciary and accord the courts with such assistance as they may require to enable them to safeguard their independence, advance the rule of law, and dispense justice equally and fairly to all citizens. Unfortunately, while the present federal government has been very weak in resourcing and strengthening the judiciary, it has been very strong and readily predisposed to ridiculing the entire institution and subjecting individual judges to both physical and psychological trauma for its own self-interest. We all witnessed the infamous midnight raids on judicial residencies and the subjection of some judges to illegal raids, arrests, and detention by agents of the federal government purportedly carried out a baseless sting operation back in 2016. Since then, the intimidation of judges whose judgment, intellectual, or moral disposition they are not comfortable with has continued unrelenting, with the latest attack on a peaceful mother, wife of a former governor, and the Justice of the Supreme Court, highly revered Justice Mary Audley. It's important to emphasize that we allow these intimidations to become acceptable standards of behavior and even become complicit in their unholy design to undermine the administration of justice when we all opt to keep quiet in the face of these assaults. We therefore commend the leaders of the Nigerian Bar Association, the body of senior advocates, the Chief Justice, and the Nigerian Judicial Council, and members of the public for rising up to this particular challenge by promptly condemning and speaking out against the idiotic siege on our judiciary as an institution. And for me, this is one attack too many, and we must quickly move beyond the verbal protestations to unveil these evil characters and their collaborators, no matter their status or positions, and ensure that they all are held to account for their actions. Otherwise, this impunity would never cease to rear its ugly head in our country. This is why I consider it deceitful for the Attorney General of the Federation Minister of Justice to declare the arrest of those who purportedly carry out the reprehensible action without disclosing their identities, while keeping sealed lists on those who designed, directed, sanctioned, and or coordinated the assault on the otherwise peaceful home and person of the Honorable Justice Mary Audley. At any rate, having been mentioned as one of the architects of this mission, the Attorney General of the Federal Ministry of Justice cannot justifiably embark on self-investigation and should therefore have the courage and to step aside pending the outcome of an independent investigation into the allegations on his complicity. The federal government must also come clean on this infamy with the names identities and affiliations of those allegedly arrested for their roles or found to have been involved in the act if it is not to be perceived as the primary mastermind. More seriously, the political season is by the corner, and Nigeria must understand that the assault on Justice Mary Audley was not an isolated incident, but take it for what it is, the resumption of the federal government's infamous tactic of browbeating the judiciary to a state of fear and conformity so that it can continue to ride roughshod unchecked over the rule of law and the sanctity of our electoral system. Although it is still early morning in our democratic march towards 2023, the attack on Justice Mary Audley is a prelude to many more and even worse political maneuvers we should be prepared to experience from the APC-led federal government, which, having lost relevance and popular support, is becoming more and more desperate over its dwindling political fortunes by the day. While cases with political undertones, including the constitutional validity of certain sections of the recent amendments to the 2010 Electoral Act, if assented to by Mr. President, will necessarily come before our courts. What's important is the duty and capacity of our judiciary to save our democracy and the country. Of course, like we said, if Mr. President assents it, we will challenge it in court. As regards the issue of direct primaries, we believe that the internal interference in internal affairs of a political party. Every party should be left with a choice on how to elect their own candidates. What is concerning is not the external pressures on the courts by the government, political parties, or other men and women of influence, but the capacity of our judges to stand firm, to be free from their personal prejudices, bias, or preference, be it political, religious, economic, ethnicity, or otherwise, and be ready to apply only the law and nothing else to decide the cases and check all forms of abuse of power and threats of injustice. I wish to thank the Chief Justice of Nigeria for his hard work and continued efforts to build a strong, resolute, and forthright judiciary that can safeguard the rule of law and protect the individual rights and freedoms and ensure that the legal system truly meets the yearnings of our citizens. On this note, it is my singular privilege and honor to declare the 2021-22 legal year open, and may God protect all our judges as they sit in judgment over the citizens. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thanks for checking out Symphony on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.